Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Okay, very fast recap. I presented in a earlier video the way we can fix the random world generator biomes in 7 days to die. That took a little while, and for some people I had some feedback from people on it that said that, hey, isn't there an easier way of doing it? Yeah, there is actually. You just have to be a little bit more careful about how you're doing some things. And this stream should probably only take about maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, and most of it's going to be me explaining a few things. I've got doing this down to maybe 15 minutes or less to edit any of the biome maps. So let me pop a different screen on here. Alrighty. I've already got Photoshop loaded up, and I have already used the 7 Days to Die map previewer. That's this guy right here. The link for that will be in the description on these videos. It is already in the description of the first video in this series. You can check that out on the channels, or just wait until I'm able to edit the descriptions after the stream is over with, and you'll be able to get the links for it there. Quick recap: install the map previewer, generate your map in 7 Days to Die using the random world generator to get your city density and everything up to where you need it to be. The instructions are pretty clear on the program. Follow it and you'll be good to go. Afterwards, you'll generate the preview and end up with this. This is what you're looking at right here. And for the purposes of this stream, I kind of generated a few different maps until I got one that was going to accommodate the kind of pre-design that I had in mind for how I was going to do the biomes. So without further ado, we have two files open. We have the preview PNG, and I need to load the biomes PNG that is in that world, or the randomly generated world folder. That's this guy right here. That's what the original looks like. Kind of sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, we're going to fix that though. I'll show you. I've already gone through and done this earlier today because this particular map is one that I'm using on my multiplayer server. You'll basically end up with where are we? Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. Sorry about that. When we're finished, you'll end up with something that looks a little bit like this. There we are. So we are going to be going from this to this. It's a lot easier than you think. Let me close this guy down here. Alrighty. The reason we open both is we want to be able to reference the colors. You need to pay close attention to the fact that you are using only the colors that are available or supplied in the original biomes.png that is generated when you create the world. So back to the preview, and right off the bat we're going to create a new layer. You don't have to name it, you don't have to worry about what it is. And I have found it easiest to use the snow color, which basically is the white, as the color that we're going to be doing this with. So I've already got it selected. I had chosen it. Just real quick, I'll show you how you can do that yourself. You use the color picker, eyedropper, select the white on it, jump back over to your other image. And on this new layer, we're going to select the whole layer. There are hotkeys for doing that, but I'm showing you the lazy way. We're going to fill this layer. with the foreground color. That's our white. And we're going to also need to go back here again, and we're going to have to select the green. I go the route of using the green because it ends up in the long run being best or easiest to see over the white. You'll see why in just a moment here. So let's go back here, and right away we need to go up here and go to blending for that layer. I right-clicked on the layer in Photoshop, and we're going to drop that blending back to about roughly 50-ish%, so you can see through it and see what's going on underneath. And then we're going to create a new layer. And the reason we're working with multiple layers is in the event that you mess something up, it's always easy to get rid of that layer as opposed to going backwards over other work that you've done. It's a lot easier and faster to clean up. So we have our green selected as our primary color to work with, and we're going to select the brush. I have found, I've done this quite a bit, I have found that selecting a 3-pixel size for the brush, hardness is 100%, opacity is 100%, and flow is 100%. 3 pixels is really good, easy to work with. You can still see it, but it's small enough where it's not going to create some pretty bad jagged lines and things like that that you'll have to clean up later. So looking at our preview, I've already kind of have determined in my mind how I wanted to separate the areas out for the different biomes, and I'm going to be saying this or talking to myself while I'm doing this, and you'll kind of get a little bit of an insight of what goes through my mind while I'm walking myself through this. Even though I've done this tons of times, I still do this every time. It alleviates the or minimizes the possibility of screwing up. So we have our brush selected, and I'm going to kind of set myself up for the forest part of the biome first, and I already kind of know how I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to start off with the image, and the trick here is you want to be jaggy with it. You don't want to do a bunch of straight lines because those will show up and just look outright horrible on the map. It helps to overindulge in coffee a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to kind of go like that. There we are. So this area right here is going to be our forest biome. And let's consider doing the desert next. We're not changing anything, unlike in the other video where we just did it layer by layer or biome by biome. We're going to do them all pretty much at once here. So you need to make sure that you start inside of the previous area that you marked off with your lines. That will show up, and the reason for that will become evident in a little bit. So let's see, we want our desert, I think, maybe to kind of swing up this way, maybe. Yeah, I want to have it kind of swing up this way and through here. Do I want to include that? Yeah, I think I do. So I'm going to start about right here, and I'm going to start drawing around here. Kind of come around this way, and kind of come under here like that. There we are. And this second area that let's call it walled off, will become our desert biome. Next one to think about is the wasteland. I don't use wasteland much on my maps. I do include it, but I don't spend a whole lot of time in it. It's a dreadful, dreary place, and even though the loot stages and things like that get jacked way up, I don't spend a whole lot of time there. So once again, we start inside our last biome that we worked in, and we just kind of start wiggling this through, and there we are. What we're going to end up with now is we have our forest biome in this first area, the desert in the second. The third will be our wasteland, and the last but not least will end up being the snow. So you're going to go back down to the white layer that we created, or the snow color, and you're going to go back to its blending options, and you're going to set that back to 100%. Got to do that first. And you're going to now merge these two layers if you're happy with what you've got here. I'm comfortable with this for all intents and purposes of this tutorial here, so we'll just go with it. I'll show you how to make minor corrections along the way when we get towards the end of this, so don't worry about that. So what we want to do is merge that, and there is a hotkey in Photoshop for it. It's a simple Control-E, but for those that aren't used to the hotkeys or don't know what they are, you can just go up to Layer, and you want to merge down. You don't want to merge visible or flatten the image. It's merging down. So we're going to do that. You'll see over here on the right, those two layers are now one, and you can now come up and use your Magic Wand selection tool. Tolerance is set to 25. It's good for the purpose of this tutorial right here. And we're going to work with staying in the same order, the forest. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And this is the key to getting this smooth and looking good. You want to make sure anytime that you're working with these, you want to expand the marquee. That's the dotted line that's zipping around everything. You want to increase your selected area just a little bit, because the line that we drew, it's green, and in other biomes, if you don't expand this selection area, it's going to leave a faint green line that 7 Days to Die will interpret as a change in biome. If you don't make these changes, you'll have these little paths of green forest running through your map, and unless you want that, you want to make sure you do this. So you're going to go up to Select, and you're going to go to Modify, and we want to expand that. Now, I wanted to point out, and this is something I didn't mention in the previous video, this 3 pixels is the same size as our brush. Our brush is also 3 pixels. By doing this, you're guaranteeing that you are overlapping and also covering the previous color laid down in the case we're talking about the lines that we created. So you expand it by 3 pixels, and we can now fill it with the biome that we want to put in here, which is our forest. You just go up to Edit, Fill it with that foreground color, 100%. There we go. And click off of it. The next one in question, we will do the desert. So let's go over to our biomes image here and use the color picker. That's the eyedropper, some people call it that. Select that color, go back to our image, and we need to now select, using the Magic Wand tool, this here. Remember, you need to expand the selected area or expand the marquee a little bit, so we're going to expand that. Our 3 pixels is already in there, and we can now fill it with the foreground color. It's going to be our desert. Let's go ahead and deselect that. I'm going to repeat this process for doing the wasteland. And come back up here, select this, increase this marquee, 3 pixels, fill that with our foreground color. There we are. Now let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit, kind of look around. Now remember early on when I said you want to make sure that you close all of your lines up and you start in the previous biome that you had just done earlier. That started or left you with these little lines that were kind of sitting behind everything. By expanding the selected area or the marquee the size of the brush, That guarantees that you'll also end up selecting and overlapping and then and therefore hiding those little extra lines that were kind of running off into the other sections of the biomes, and you don't have to worry about those. So looking over everything looks pretty good, and I'm not going to go over and make the fixes to the whole thing. I'm just going to select an area or so, but just say, for example, right here towards the center, we've got kind of a straight line. Straight lines on the map don't look so good. You want to kind of jaggy them up a little bit. So you don't have to leave the image. You can just go ahead and select whatever biome that you're going to be working in. And in this particular case, we're going to pick the color for the forest, and then we're going to go back to the brush, and let's just kind of come in here. I'm going to zoom in for you guys a little bit just so you can see what I'm doing here. There we are. Let's just go ahead and jaggy this little beastie out a little bit. And let's take care of this one right here. Alrighty. So we've got these additional areas that we want to fix the straight lines for. You just go back up to your selection tool. That's the magic wand. Click in that. And to do multiple areas at a time, I may go through and fix multiple areas like I just showed you here. To select multiple, you don't want to do each one individually. You just hold the Shift key down. That's multi-selection in Photoshop. It may be different in GIMP or your graphics editor. You'll have to figure that one out yourself, but go ahead and select that. Now both of them are selected, and once again, you always want to modify that selected area 3 pixels, and we're going to go ahead and fill that with the forest color. There you go. After you're done, zoom back out. After you're done and you're happy with things, this particular image, you need to save this as biomes.png. In other words, you're going to be overwriting the original that you have in the folder. Technically I go through and I'll save as like Biomes 2 or whatever, and that way I can rename the files and I don't always lose the original in case for whatever reason I want to reference it. You can delete the preview if you wish, but one last time before we finish up here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up to the blending just so we can check. Doesn't hurt to do this. Just kind of bring this back here, and you can kind of see now where all of our biomes are going to end up. If there's any that say some of your lines are going over roads weird, like in this case right down here, there's a little spot over here that the desert and the wasteland kind of sits like right on top of or right next to a road. I don't know how that's going to look in game. I'm going to leave it, but if you decide you want to change it, you can always alter this using the method that I just previously showed you by working on small areas. Everything looks good to me, and that's just about as simple as it's going to get. So let's go ahead and reset the blending on this. Right there. And you can, if you wish, you can leave this as it is and save it as a temporary file in case you want to go back to it or you want to make multiples. That way you don't have to reload the preview back up or anything like that. But if you're just going to save this as your biome, you can go ahead and just come down here and delete that layer. You don't even have to delete it if you're saving it as a PNG anyways. It's going to hide that, but it's just a habit for me to do that. So we're going to go ahead and click Save As .png, and there's our original right there. And I'll rename this as mine, okay? But for the game purposes and everything like that, you're going to want to rename it just to Biomes. Just go ahead and save it. You're all done. Oh, we got it open already. My bad. And we're finished. Now all you need to do if you wish to use this in your game is just overwrite or delete the original Biomes and rename it to biomes.png. Use it in your world, upload it to your server, or do whatever you're going to do. Either way, that's how you do it, and that's just about as easy as it gets. Take your time. You can come back in here and you can refine the snot out of the edges and make them as jaggy as you wish. I've found that as long as you don't have large expanses of flat areas and things like that, things will pretty much end up looking good just using the erratic tendency that your own hand is going to have while you're working with your mouse. And that's all there is to it. I really don't have a whole lot of anything else to say. Like I said, once the stream is finished, I'm going to update the descriptions both on YouTube and Twitch to include the link to the 7 Days to Die map previewer, and we should be good to go. Last but not least, like and subscribe if you like the content. If you don't, that's okay too. I don't have any problem with that. Just doing my part to contribute a little bit back to the community. Have a good day, folks.